Hello and welcome to Leagues Ahead, the vodcast of the Arena Gauntlet League that covers future editions of our tournament offerings. I'm your host, tournament organizer, and founder of the AGL, Christopher York. And with me tonight is league committee member and lead designer for the upcoming Final Fantasy League, Adam S. Welcome, Adam.
Hey Chris, thanks for having me.
Well, it's been a while since we've seen you, but I enjoy these chats. Good to see you back again in the seat. Now, as I understand it, this didn't start out as specifically your baby. You got handed a hot potato in the middle of design, right? Can you tell us the story about how this came to be in your capable hands?
Well, I think originally Lotte was going to be handling it. She had some really great ideas and even did the initial pitch, which a lot of this is based on, a lot of this design. It was a great pitch, and then I think she got a little swamped, so it ended up just falling to me a little bit. Although I was super enthusiastic about this. Like, I think it's a really cool concept for a league. It's something that we've been interested in trying anyway, and I think the fit with Final Fantasy is pretty excellent. So I was happy to take this one over.
Yeah.
Although, yeah, I mean, Lotte was still super involved as well. This was a really, I think, time-intensive league to design. Maybe the most time-intensive that we've had. Certainly one of the most, anyway.
Yeah, I think that probably
So that was
started out
part of
because
it.
the initial pitch, as I recall, was a bit ambitious and unscoped, and I think that you had posted a sort of tech tree based on the Final Fantasy game, and it just sprawled out from one center point into infinity in all directions. And I think that we were sort of left wondering, where is this going to take us? And as you pointed out, right, that's a team problem. No league is designed in a vacuum these days. It's a team sport. An assist is as good as a goal. But yeah, when it was first pitched by Lotte, I was like left wondering, like, there's an idea here that's compelling, but in terms of like turning it into an executable finished product, I was stumped, especially not knowing a damn thing about the world of Final Fantasy, as I don't and unapologetically do not know the lore. I was a bit like daunted, but you weren't. You were excited. So how did you go from this like unscoped, sprawling tech tree idea to the core league concept we have now, which, spoiler alert, we'll get into it later, is a sort of customizable pack which more or less, let's say, fits with a leveling character mechanic?
Yeah. Well, how did we do that? So, I mean, I guess like a lot of points there that you've raised. One thing that it made me think of immediately was I also have no background in Final Fantasy, like zero. Big video game player, like in my youth, but never got into Final Fantasy. So I have done a bunch of research, and also we consulted the community quite a lot on this. Like our league crafting had a specific thread for Final Fantasy, and boy, did we get like incredible feedback from people, lots of great ideas. Some of which I think we ended up incorporating pretty heavily into the league design. So that was a big help. And even just to sort of sense check the ideas that we were having, we would go to them and be like, does this seem like, are we in the right space with this? Does this fit the kind of thing you're talking about? So that was super helpful, really collaborative. How did we get from there? I think I am pretty terrible at getting from high level design to specific implementation. And this time we gave ourselves a really big challenge because the high level design was so high level. We wanted to sort of deconstruct packs, deconstruct starting pools. Starting pool was pretty easy. We had a vision for how we could, step away from packs a little bit and start with a more powered down version of a starting pool.
Yeah.
Although even that, there was a lot of debate about how that would look what would go in the starting pools. Should it be offset packs? Should there be offset cards? Should you make a kind of choice before you get your pool? In the end, we went with just Final Fantasy for that, which I think whenever we had a debate like that, I think we erred on the side of doing the more simple, straightforward version. And I think that's always a good call when we don't have 100% clear vision of something, to sort of err on the side of keep it simple. I mean, one person reminded me that Final Fantasy is just going to be bringing in a lot of people who are new to Magic, or certainly new to our server, new to our concept. So having it be too intricate, having it involve a massive tech tree, which, as you know, it did involve in my first pitch, is going to make some people's brains just glaze over, right? That's just going to turn people to stone staring at it. So we backed away from the most sort of ornate and complex versions of this plan. But I think what we ended up with is still, it hits, for me, the sweet spot is there are interesting decisions to be made, strategically important decisions, but no terrible ones. So you can't, destroy your league by making a pick. Yeah, no traps. And also, even, the decisions are still less important than just sort of normal variance in Magic, right? Like, ideally for me, I don't want you to be making strategic decisions that power up your deck so much that you can beat any deck, or that, that there's a really huge disparity. I kind of want it to be meaningful, but sort of, within the normal range of Magic variance,
Yeah. So just to be clear, I mean, to people that are just tuning in, we're a sealed league, and normally we start the league with 6 full packs, 15 card packs, and we have a 90 card pool to start with. And with the advent of the play booster, there was a sense that League was too powerful out of the gate. Now, as I understand it, we have a very powered down starting pool. We have 6 packs of 9 cards each. Is that correct?
So it's not actually those ones. So what it is it's just, it's not packs. You get, I don't know the exact numbers. I don't have them in front of me, but you get a set number of rares / mythics at the usual ratio that they appear in. So you get 6 rares or mythic, and that's it. So typical in the play booster eras is probably closer to an average of 9 or 10. So you're getting, roughly 50% fewer rares and mythics across the board in this league. And that means that some people who would have gotten a dozen will only be getting 6. So that's a huge sort of just
nerfing
return to where draft booster power level was before the move to play boosters. And then we've also color balanced the pools a bit more. Actually, I think at the starting pools, we didn't need to do that. Someone explained the math to me, but it should work out to be more color balanced than play boosters as well.
Well, there's a dedicated slot for each color, right? And I think in a play booster, you're only guaranteed 4 colors now. Whereas
yes, although
these are guaranteed
what you're
5.
describing is the comeback packs, but the actual starting pool doesn't use packs. It's just a set number of cards of each rarity.
Oh, okay.
So everyone will have a starting pool that's shaped almost exactly the same, but obviously filled with different cards. And then, yes, as you say, then once we get into your comeback packs, you start with a base of a 9-card pack, and on your first loss, you're going to choose one of the different options. And what it will do is, for the first loss, it'll add 2 common cards from one of 5 different sets into your pack. So for every pack that you get for the rest of the league, so for your next 10 packs, your pack will have 11 cards plus anything else you add. And 2 of those cards will come from whichever set you picked. So you really start right at day one customizing what your comeback pack is going to look like, and you're going to control the shape of that. It's going to evolve through the league. That's sort of your character for the whole entire league.
Can I ask you a question? And you might not know the answer. Now, I'm wondering at which point you would break even with the normal power level for the standard Arena Gauntlet leagues, right? So if we're adding 11 cards and then 12 cards and then 13 and then 14, like I'm just wondering, like numerically, when do you catch up? Like, so we're starting already kind of behind the power level that a normal league would start, and then we're further hobbling progress by offering comeback packs which are won upon losses. So we're further hobbling those. I don't know if you know offhand. When would you sort of be at the point of equilibrium where you reach, a certain number of losses, you're going to be where you would normally be in league? Because I know that these comeback packs, eventually will exceed the number of regular cards, right? So I assume that you'll be catching up, and then there'll be a point where you break even, and then there will be a part at the end of the league in the last couple of weeks where packs are just much better than they would normally be, and you might even speed past the point where you would be in a normal 6-week league. I don't know if you calculated that or not.
So other people have looked at, because there's not just one route through the packs, it's going to change depending on what you pick. But if your goal is just to get a better pack in terms of rares or whatever, I think what I've heard is around pack 5 or 6, you should be getting a pack that's as good or better than a play booster.
Okay.
In terms of total cards and also rarity distribution. So about halfway through the league, your pack should look like a sealed booster pack.
Okay.
Now
that doesn't mean you're
your question.
That's different than my question.
No.
But yeah.
Yeah. So you're like, I think really you'd be talking about at the end of the league, you will be overtaking power levels. Now, it's possible that it will become stronger than the strongest packs or stronger than the strongest pools at the very end. Although I suspect you probably are never catching up totally because we've powered down all those initial steps. So even though your last packs are going to be amazing, I think pretty easily your last 3 packs can have 3 rares each in them.
I think that most people are going to be relieved about that, because it seemed to me like one of the most popular elements of the current Playground League, which is just wrapping up, is that they look more like the earliest leagues, right? In terms of just kind of like working your way towards a deck through lots and lots of crappy commons and uncommons and things that don't quite line up. And people, I think, enjoyed that process. So I'm hoping that the Final Fantasy League doesn't play like a modern league, right? And is a bit funnier, is a bit goofier of an experience, and that people will be able to onboard.
I think we'll see, right?
Yeah, part of the exciting thing about trying out these new mechanics is that we're part of a sort of gigantic experiment together as a group, and already there's, as far as I know, 100 players queued up to participate in the tournament pre-Reddit push. Is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely. We were over 100 when we did our Reddit push today, so who knows? Sky's the limit. We'll see if we reach the heights of recent sets, which have been extraordinarily high. I think what you're saying is absolutely right. The feedback we've gotten, which we listen to and really try to design around, the feedback we've gotten from the surveys, which Lotta has brought in and Steve has implemented, so that everyone gets automatically sent a survey when they finish their league. In almost every league, we've done this for at least close to a year, at least anyway. A lot of that feedback has been around these things of the power level can start too high, the power level escalates too quickly, and that's some people really like high power levels, so obviously there's space to design for both types of player, but we do get a lot of feedback saying consistently in the play booster era power levels are just high, and people would like to see that tamped down where we can, or for us not to add to that excessively. So that's a challenge for us, because we also get feedback that people really like a strong comeback mechanism. They really like the pools developing as the league goes on and your pool becoming relatively proportionally stronger and stronger as you're losing matches.
Yeah.
So it's very hard to balance those two competing things, that people want the overall power level to be lower and to be consistently building things up and up and up. So to do that, I mean, we really identified, as somehow bringing the power level of starting pools down a bit. So that I think is one part of this league that if this pans out, this is something that in theory could be brought into any league.
Yeah.
The idea that a starting pool doesn't have to be 6 boosters at all.
Yeah. That's
right?
true.
I think that's an area that I'm really interested in. So it's going to be something we're watching super closely to see. I mean, we could be totally wrong, right? It could end up being that if we do this, we limit the packs in this way, then the people who start off strong are uncatchable for some reason, right?
Like, yeah. But I think what you're pointing out is something interesting. The more that Wizards keeps messing up their own products, the more that indie tournament design organizations like our own, the Arena Gauntlet League, the more agency that we have to try to repair, restore, or improve on their offerings.
Absolutely.
So I think there's a lot of possibility here. I agree with you, and we're just starting to explore these novel veins of tournament design. To get specific about this league, however, we have 5 different options for leveling up HP, magic, evasion, speed, and strength. And each one is keyed to a different offset pack. So one is Duskmourn Foundation, Bloomburrow, Ether Drift, and Tarkir Dragonstorm. Now, you know me. I hate with a capital H mono set leagues. And it looks to me like there's going to be some spice added. No matter what ladder you're climbing up, you're going to have to add some interesting offset cards to your base pool. My preference, of course, ranges up towards the 25 to 30% when we have one of these main league offerings. Have you looked at what percentage of offset cards these extra slots actually will bring to the final decks?
I haven't run those numbers, but I mean, we can do it pretty much math out loud here if you want. I mean, right from the start, you're going to have roughly 20% of every pack that you open for the whole league be 2 offset commons. And you'll be guaranteed to do that at least once and probably twice more. So towards the end, your pack is going to be, I think, 50% offset every single pack towards the end of the league. So I do think we're talking about, I mean, in comeback packs, probably 30% of the cards you get in every comeback pack will be offset cards.
Yeah, but
obviously there's a starting pool and stuff that'll bring that number back down, but you must be at least in that range of 20 to 30%, somewhere in there, I think, of the total card pool. And in addition to that, there's the slots. So it's not just those 5 sets you mentioned, which are the 5 most recent standard sets, I think, for the record. So that's also kind of a callback to, that's the kind of theming we used to use a lot more in sets. So we still use it occasionally. And so we work them in this kind of way this time. But in addition to that, there's further chaos because the 3rd upgrade in each tree gives you a sort of like wild card slot in your pack that might be like an equipment or a big spell, like high mana value spell, or there's one that's just the towns from Final Fantasy. So that's a whole other slot that's going to be like even more chaotic because it's drawn across all the packs in standard, or maybe from one of them's even just all packs that have a saga, I think. So
they're more like a special guest slot or something that isn't keyed necessarily to the 5 most recent sets, but is, really any set that's thematically tied to what we need to fill that slot with. Like equipment, for example, doesn't have any necessary attachment to the 5 most recent sets.
No, so you could be getting the Mirrodin equipment from one in those slots, which I think is going to be great. So that's like
some spice.
even more chaos, just in a really narrow band. But I think overall, you're going to see, you're going to hit pretty close, actually, almost dead on your sweet spot of a quarter of the pool being sort of offset spice.
I can't wait to see how it plays out. And speaking of offset spice, as you know, the winners of the league or the top 8 of the league get treated with a mega draft. And there's going to be a number of sets in there which we've chosen. It's the Saga draft. This is a callback that I'm fond of. Do you want to tell us a little bit about what the mega draft format is for those who are lucky enough to hit the top 8?
Yeah, I think I pitched this to you knowing that you would have a soft spot for this.
You
this was, if I remember correctly, this was your baby in, I want to say, Dominaria United, when we'd finally hit a critical mass of sets that had sagas in them, that we could do an entire mega draft of sets with sagas. And since Final Fantasy has the saga creature type in it, which is pretty cool. Mm-hmm. Probably the most exciting thing, at least for me, in this set. I thought, okay, we could bring this back. There have been a few other sets in the interim that have sagas. And so we're taking another swing at doing a 6-pack draft of sets united by all having sagas in them. It should be pretty cool, I think.
Can you take us through the sets and the logic for their placement in the draft, if there is one?
Well, I'll have to pull up the rules. I'm flying blind here, but I think I have them right here. So give me 1 second.
Okay.
So the sets for the mega draft are Final Fantasy.
Starting with the
that'll
base
begin
set. Always recommended.
That's something we've been doing more lately, is starting and ending where we can with the base set, and I think that makes for a really good draft. That's the right mix of base set in a mega draft, and also having it at the end, because some other times historically some of our mega drafts have kind of gone most recent to least recent, and so you sort of end the draft on the least powerful set,
strongest to
the
weakest,
most disconnected. Yeah, exactly. And so we've done this a few times, and I think it's always been popular to start and end with the current set. And it also just gives a little bit more of that theming to the draft without it being like overwhelmingly one set. Mm-hmm. So then we're doing Wilds of Eldraine, Lord of the Rings, Dominaria United, and Neon Dynasty. So all sets that have like cool different types of sagas in them, or like also some really nice enchantment kind of themes. Like Wilds of Eldraine had a whole sub theme around enchantments, around bouncing enchantments, which is great with sagas. It's going to mix really well with the other saga sets. Neon Dynasty similarly had a whole bunch of payoffs for enchantments or mixed artifacts and enchantments, and also ways of reusing the enchantments. So I think those are going to be perfect fits. And then we're always excited to put in Lord of the Rings wherever we can. We don't usually mix in sort of the universes beyond properties with the normal Magic stream sometimes, but mostly we don't. So when we had the chance here, we were pretty excited to throw that in. And then Dominaria United also had the read ahead sagas, which are a pretty cool addition there.
Yeah, so it's important to realize that if you hate one universes beyond in another universes beyond, if it offends you that Lord of the Rings is getting into your Final Fantasy, you can be reassured that the top 8 are a fairly elite set, and this is going to affect a very small minority of players, right? So if the thematic overlay troubles you, you're probably just going to be happy to be there in the top 8. I would think it'll be a rather minor inconvenience.
Well, I mean, it's an interesting point, right? Like, because we're only touching on it now, and to be honest, it's been 0% like of the server conversation. Like, I have not heard a single person be concerned with or have any really strong opinion about Final Fantasy being a Universes Beyond property, and the sort of first one of this like huge tranche of them that's coming, right? Because they're making 50% of sets this. So I actually thought that was going to be a bigger thing, and that was going to raise a bunch of issues for us about how do we mix and match. And I'm pretty happy that for this league at least, there hasn't really been anything like that. I should also say, like, I'm personally a little bit cynical about them doing this. I feel a little bit like disappointed that they're moving away from the Magic theming into other properties to this extent. But, I've kind of not really felt that too much here. I've just been leaning into this, really kind of embracing, this set, this league, and not spending any time worrying about it. And it seems like no one is spending any time worrying about it, which I think is great. Like, I'm glad that there's not a sort of like, it's not like a bummer or anything like that. So I actually think that's amazing. I hadn't even really thought about that until right now, that we've spent almost no time thinking about, do we need to treat a Universes Beyond set differently? Should we be mixing this with whatever type? Like, that hasn't come up really at all.
Well, there's been things
I think
around
it helps,
this
of course.
Set. Yeah, there's been things around this set that have dulled my enthusiasm. I mean, one that it's about an IP I have no knowledge or passion for. And the other thing is that this whole price hike, this ridiculous hoarding and price hiking that's going on. I for the first time in a long time, I did not go to a paper pre-release because I just don't care about any of this. And I want to play Magic, and I think that there's enough interesting stuff in the set. It's going to make for a good league. This is not going to be a set that I aim to collect. It's not going to I'm happy to play with the cards and see what the tournament brings. But yeah, I mean, I think most people have better things to do than to gripe about the direction that Wizards Corporate has taken with their offerings.
That's not true.
Well, I'm saving my gripes.
Certainly not most people.
I'm saving my gripes until we have to play with the Spider-Man set with different skins online. A human spider hero or whatever the hell, and how are they going to theme that? What a hot mess that's going to be. Hot mess. But you know what?
I mean, I do think
we're going to design a great tournament. We're going to design a great tournament regardless. We're going to have fun with the cards, and it kind of helps me get past all of that anxiety because I've got something to do with my fingers and hands while all this is happening. Whereas if I was just a passive consumer, I might be more upset about all this stuff. But for me, it's a new challenge. It's a new setting. It's a new way for us to play cards, and we will survive.
I do think what you were describing is totally correct. I had the exact same experience. I also just did not even consider doing the pre-release, which I do every pre-release.
Yeah.
Because it was premium priced. I mean, my local store was charging $70 Canadian for it.
Oh my God.
I'm not really in the business of, collecting or flipping cards that much. I mostly just want to play limited.
Right.
But I think that's going to be double-edged for us as a server. Like, I'm not cheering them on as they crank up the prices or anything, but we're still offering a tournament that's 6 weeks for $10.
You can't beat the value. You can't.
And everyone, all that money gets paid back out to people in a very flat pay structure. So I think, you can't beat the value. I think that's kind of great for us all.
As they push more people online and kill the game, we're here to pick up the slack, I guess.
We're here. Yeah. That's too, it's not how I'm actually thinking about it, but I do think, to put that in a less cynical way, I'm glad we're here offering a tournament that anyone can afford.
Right.
When I can't, in good faith, part with that much money that I should be spending on my kids, whatever.
That's the thing.
School fare.
I agree with you. I could guiltlessly recommend our server's tournament offerings to anybody, almost regardless of income or economic status.
Oh yeah.
Whereas I could not, in good conscience, encourage somebody to attend a Final Fantasy pre-release for $70 for a 3-hour experience. I think that's just absolutely egregious and troubling. So, that's. I guess that's all we need to say about Final Fantasy as a general product. I don't know a chocobo from a cloud, but You know,
I will say the set design looks great though. So I came in with the same lack of expectations that you had,
yeah,
and I mean, I still haven't played with it, but taking a look at the set, I'm excited to play with it, which is good. Like that could have gone either way because it's a property I don't know anything about. You know,
right.
I'm not expecting to be this enthusiastic about it, but I actually have been looking at the cards, and I'm just think it's going to be really fun to play. So we'll see. We'll see if how I feel about it 2 or 3 universes beyond sets from now.
Right.
But right now,
Yeah,
seems like a non-issue to me.
we're getting ahead of ourselves and we're editorializing more about the game generally. We should try to return to the tournament. All right, so we talked a little bit about the Mega Draft. We didn't talk about 2 different rules that I wouldn't say they're controversial, but they're worth mentioning. Let's start first of all with the one that's absolutely not controversial in my view. It's the buyback mechanic. We do this once a year to encourage new players to join the server, risk-free, relatively risk-free. So they buy their entry, and then if they don't prize out, they get their entry fee back in store credit, and they can re-up in a tournament that's more to their liking. So I think this is generally proved to be a popular mechanic, one that we have to use sparingly because if it's too heavily utilized, it has the tendency to flatten the prize table in a way that more experienced players find problematic. But again, once a year, it seems appropriate, and bringing in new players from the Final Fantasy fan group who haven't played a lot of Magic, that might be daunting to them. So I don't know, Adam. What do you got to say about buyback with relation to Final Fantasy? Are you down?
I mean, so I stirred a little controversy with this because I really, I mean, to toot our horns a little bit here, like, we've just been really successful at growing the league. Like, we have been on a steep uphill climb, as our other controversial rule will get to in a second.
Well, thanks to Jack for the
people...
Reddit posts, of course, on that. He's been doing good. He's been knocking it out of the park.
Absolutely, our marketing has been great. I mean, thanks to honestly everyone. I mean, thanks to Lotta, who spends a ton of time looking at what people are liking and what they're not liking, and really working on retaining players. She's also been active on other Discords, bringing people in that way. Thanks to the design by everyone, obviously, of each of these leagues. Like, I think we have just had a great run of designs. Thanks to Steve. I mean, I was going to mention this before when you were saying that there was an opportunity for us to step in where Wizards was dropping the ball. And, you specifically said indie tournaments and stuff. And I certainly think that's true. But I mean, I don't know, but I don't know if anyone's out there doing this, right? Like, what's so exciting about this league is partly this tech aspect. When we were doing this design, I was asking Steve, like, is this possible? Can you make a custom pack like this? Can you draw cards out of like a Scryfall search? Can we manage 200 players or 150 players or whatever it's going to be? Can you manage that many people with different pack configurations, each getting their own different pack? And he can. And I mean, he has just been crushing the implementation of these designs, just league in, league out. The trading mechanic in the current league, just like the polish on that is incredible.
Yeah, we have to have him on here if he doesn't really step forward to offer himself as an interview guest, but we should force him on the show one of these times.
Amazing. So I mean, I do think that level of like detail that he's brought to the bots that communicate with you during the league to give you choices and things. I mean, just the polish, the execution has been amazing. So I don't know if other people are actually doing what we're doing. Like, this thing that we're doing for this league is technically complex. And, I think it's sometimes we're drawing on the wider community too to help with some of this stuff, which is amazing. A lot of it is Steve just shouldering this himself, which,
he's our Atlas. He's our Atlas. Yeah, he's holding this whole show up.
But yeah, so all of that makes possible this community that people want to come back to, want to stay in. Even, you know, if you're not winning tournaments, I think that there's a lot going on that's cool and interesting and not happening anywhere else.
To answer your rhetorical question, I don't think anybody else is doing exactly
I
what
don't think
we're
so
doing.
either. Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. I mean, that, which is incredible, right? Like, it's great to be part of that and to be doing that. I think, yeah. So I think, to get back to where we started on this question, if I can find my way back, you know, I think we're doing a lot. And so buyback, I was a little bit like, do we need this? Like, what problem is this solving? If anything, we have too many people. Like, that sounds ridiculous, right? But like, we're straining the shape of our tournament in some ways because so many people are coming in terms of what it takes to administer the league, in terms of, you know, our system is starting to chafe at this many players with this many great records, being able to top 8, being able to top 16, being able to top 32, is just incredibly competitive to really hit those high levels. You know, so that's the other stuff we're dealing with in these rules. But so I was a bit like, do we need to recruit another extra 30 people or whatever it's going to be that come in through buyback? But that said, I love that we do it. I think it's a really great concept. I do think that's been part of the formula that's helped us grow like we have.
Yeah, I think that I don't think the problem is the number of players. I think it's a problem that we have to solve in terms of like figuring out which parts of the infrastructure need to change or grow to accommodate that. Like, I think the more the merrier. And if buyback helps 30 people join our community that wouldn't have otherwise, then I think it's worth the price of entry. I know that some people once panicked, and this might surprise you, Adam. Once people thought that once we got over 50 players or 75, the tournament culture would just evaporate, and you know everything good would disappear, and the sky was falling. Right? I think this is another sky is falling moment. I don't think we've quite hit it. I just think it's a matter of adjusting expectations and a very little bit of the infrastructure. I do think like we have the potential to run much larger tournaments than the 182 that we just completed in Tarkir Dragonstorm. It's just a matter of, can the server culture wrap its head around the implications of that growth? And I think we can. I don't think it's a huge jump. I think people are getting along just fine, even though the tournaments are bigger. The culture seems relatively intact. There are new voices emerging, and each one are making contributions that are worthwhile. There's a sort of secret project in development by people who are interested in further. I can't say much about it now, but there's a sort of an achievements team working in the background that I'm going to have to reveal one of these days. People are up to exciting things. Their content creation is it's bigger and better than it ever was before, right? We have more streamers, we have more vloggers, and it's just there's a lot of stuff going on right now that it's humbling to see the great work that so many people are doing and the way in which they're collaborating with each other in a harmonious way. This is beyond what anybody could have expected already, and I don't think that by letting a few more people in, the roof's going to cave or anything like that. But I mean, you must have, like the naysayers of WeOr, you must have an ideal number in mind for what this community would be ideal for running, right? So, what's your ideal number?
To be honest, that's not my approach to it, right? Like, I've been advocating pretty hard, often behind the scenes, but sometimes in the public chats about stuff. I've been advocating for just trying to capture what we've got and make it scalable without the competition ramping out of control. Like, I think when we hit 180, for me, it felt too competitive, which I know some people love. And again, there'll be space for that as well. But there's certain thresholds for me. Like, for example, I just really like it when most people who are not eliminated make the top 8. Right? Like, that to me is the balance. And that doesn't need to be achieved by capping players. And I wouldn't argued for capping players.
Okay.
I think for me that has to be achieved by, something like the other rule that we've proposed here that we haven't.
Let's talk about the league split rule, because that's the most controversial right now. Okay, so it reads, and I quote, "In the event that registration reaches 128 players," which, spoiler alert, looks pretty damn likely, the league will be split into two separate standings. Each set of standings will produce its own top 8 and league champion. Details of the split will be announced following league consultations. That was, wait and see. But
which we need to actually do that consultation. That's been on my radar. How are we going to do it? But and so we've already done an experiment in the current league where we're using a similar model. And I think we're getting mixed feedback on it. And mixed is usually a euphemism for bad, but I think we are truly getting some people saying, like, this is so much better. Because, like, I made it to the last week and I would have just given up. But because I'm in this reduced, this more manageable competitive field, I'm playing out all my games and I have a chance of making the top, which would have been gone, otherwise. So I think we're getting that feedback. And then we're getting the feedback from people who are saying you can't have 2 league winners in one league. It doesn't make sense. You're just kind of like playing with these definitions, but the risk is that you're going to undermine the meaning of the sort of institutions that which obviously
that's Johnny's line. That's one of the old guard, right? He's
that's Johnny's line, and Johnny is conservative about these things, and I've pushed back really hard, not in the public eye to this. I've been pushing back hard on this, but I think pushing back hard because I think it's a good point. Like, I think he is capturing something that a bunch of people feel. Part of my pushback is like, well, stop feeling that way. But I also I am aware that, like, people.
Thank God you're not a psychotherapist or something, right? Well, just stop feeling that way. Yeah, you're depressed. Stop feeling that way.
Have you tried not?
Don't. Just don't. Yeah.
No, but it's been challenging for me because you described it as the sky is falling, which I don't think is how I feel, but I feel like we can't be complacent. We've grown 100% in a year, and the starting competitive level was already extremely high.
Yes,
and we doubled the number of people, including adding a bunch of just absolutely top tier, consistent competitors. Right. And so I'm not saying the sky is falling. If we keep running tournaments exactly the same at around these numbers, we'll live.
It'd be fine.
But
it'd be fine. But there'd be some subset of the players would be upset, right? They'd feel left out. But there's lots of spikes that would be happy with the level of competition just as is, right?
Yeah.
For them.
But I mean, so for me, not that I just designed for myself, it's not at all right. But like for me, I won the pennant. I was the top overall person in the 182 person league, which is ridiculous. And the whole time I felt stressed, which is just not what I want. Like, it was like there was no margin right up until my 29th match was over. I had not locked up a top 8 spot. I could easily have missed the top 8 still at that point. And I ended up being the top overall person because the margin from 1 to 8 was so narrow. It was like a single match.
Not to put too fine a point on it, Adam, but you put so much into the main league that the mega draft, you had nothing left in the tank for that. I hear.
I had nothing.
Yeah, sorry, not to rub a fresh wound, but congratulations on the pennant. Congratulations on the pennant.
You're baiting me into going into my own. The point for me was, I'm pretty competitive, and I get that there are some people who want even more competitive. They just want sheer competition, no mercy.
Yeah.
But I do think there's also a huge number of people who want something that's casual and fun, and you can step it up to being at the competitive level.
Yeah, people are going to say,
so
Adam,
I really want
they're going to say
that
you're living proof that you can make it, right? Adam can make it.
Yeah, you can make it. I mean, but the point for me isn't just that you can make it. Like, on some level, it's not even about necessarily the success. It's about, I think, that people, just can have fun doing it. I don't want it to be so punishing when you take a loss, that you feel like, oh shoot, I took 2 losses this week, I'm out, that kind of sense that, that I had in that league. And I ended up being the top overall person. And it wasn't because I was exaggerating, it was because to really finish that high in that competitive an environment, you had to be like dialed in nonstop when you were playing. You couldn't make stupid mistakes, and you had to get lucky, and you had to have
some people find that very exciting, right?
Oh, it was exciting. I'm not saying take that away. I think what I'm saying is when we had 100 people, that was already there and already exciting, with just like a smidge less of that hyper pressure element of it. And as we've ramped up and up and up, right, I don't want there to be whole classes of players who feel like, well, there's nothing I can do to make it to the top, or to make it to the last week, still be alive and say I'm literally mathematically locked out of the top 8 anyway, so why even play?
Well, I think
those are experiences.
Those are like we're talking about a GP kind of level of tension, right? And again, like one of the things I've said is that if Wizards is going to gut its own Pro Tour system, we could have something like that on here, right? We're probably like not a bad option for people who want to play for relatively high levels of competition with some actual, albeit small, prize on the table for doing so. But then again, I think we should have tournaments. We should have two levels of tournaments, right? One for keeping the spikes happy, right? Which I think it's easy to have a series of tournament offerings that satisfy that psychographic or whatever. And I do think we should have other tournaments which are more geared towards the casual crowd. We can make both player bases happy. It's just a matter of picking and choosing our opportunities to let certain mechanics shine with certain sets attached to them. And I think some sets are going to be new player friendly and some sets are not. I think that the league splitting works well with Final Fantasy. It doesn't seem like a spiky kind of environment. Like when I think about like role playing games, I think about sort of open ended worlds. I think about the potential for exploring. I think about building up skills and customizing, and all that's here in this rule set. So I think with Final Fantasy especially, I don't mind the league splitting happening here because it seems like it ought to be a sort of big tent, everybody welcome, more casual experience. If we had a set with a different theming, I might feel differently, and I might feel like it's time to satisfy a different part of the player base. So I think we have to not take a hard line and say we're only going to satisfy the casuals from now on, or we're only going to satisfy the spikes from now on. I do think that they're both kind of arrows in our design quiver, right?
You're baiting me into a topic that I've been debating nonstop on the various places.
Let's hear it. Out with it.
So my answers to what you're saying would be a couple things. I mean, one, I agree generally with the point. Two, I think we can satisfy both of those people at the same time, that there are options to do that. It doesn't need to be like we alternate sets between satisfying them and not. I think we can do both at the same time. My third point would be, if we cut these leagues in half, if we split them right down the middle, they are still so competitive. Like they are really strongly competitive. Like I know you maybe are trying to compare it to a GP. I do think that sometimes I push back on the GP comparisons because like the difference for us in my view is we're running a 6-week long tournament where we want people to be engaged for as long as they're in it, which is just a different thing than a 1-day tournament where if you lose your first 2 matches, you can drop and go home.
Right.
Like that's just not, we're really a community that does this thing together over and over.
Right.
So while we can be super competitive and we want that competitive, and we are, if we get too competitive, there's just not like a GP where you can be like, I lost my first 2 games. I'm going to go get lunch and go home. It's like, well, now I can't play Magic with my friends for a month or whatever, if we get too competitive, if people are basically dead in week 1, that for me, that's too much. And I don't think that's like, we need it to be that competitive for the spikes to be like, this is great, because I'm pretty spiky. I talk to all the spikes. It's not like when we were 100 people those people weren't feeling the competitive pressure, like it was still incredibly high level competition at the top end. So those are my pushback is I think even if we institute a structure that, keeps things at a, not the super hyper large leagues, that we can satisfy both of those groups at the same time. And also, yeah, I push back on the idea that we should be like a GP, because I know there are people who are talking about like cuts on week whatever, and I think some of those things jeopardize. Like, this is the problem is I really want to keep what's great about our league, which is a lot of things. Like, we have hit some parts of this formula, perfectly, for doing this thing that's quite difficult, balancing casual and competitive, doing a tournament that runs for a month and a half, engaging players across a spectrum of skills and experience.
And preferences.
So I want to preserve all that stuff in both directions. I want to preserve it against too much change, and I want to preserve it against, a massive not changing at all and having our size make parts of that untenable going forward. So it's tough to manage. It's really tough to build consensus in the community about this, because some people really hate almost every change possible and a bunch of people are really concerned about not changing at all. So it's been the most contentious issue, I think, in my whole time doing these things.
Yeah, it's an exciting time for the league. I think that maybe some of these emergency choices that you're discussing don't necessarily bear down on us as strongly as they could, because we're entering into summer. Summer is typically a lower registration period. We're coming off of a tournament where there was just over 100 participants. Now that's a 3-week league, and granted that's the largest one we've ever had, but still it's low for us compared to a regular tournament offering.
6 weeks.
It's difficult. I mean, really, the sign up for Final Fantasy is going to tell the tale, I think. And we can't speak to that with any authority at this point. The ball's still in play. I think that maybe one more regular league where we're looking at what the split does to the standings, what it does to the culture. We don't really know yet how that hit, because Playground League's not finished. So till we see the feedback from that, we're flying blind a little bit. But I do think that Final Fantasy has enough in it in terms of the Arena Gauntlet League's tournament design that you can almost forget that and still enjoy the tournament, right? So for me, what I'm excited about is is playing around with my choices about which tech tree I'm gonna, try to climb up, which offset packs I'm gonna get to play with my main set. Also, just exploring what the hell are Final Fantasy cards going to look like, because I skipped all my pre-releases. So this is going to be, for me, this is a league that's about discovery, right? Yep. It's not about spiking. It's not necessarily even about a community building like Tarkir Dragonstorm was. This is one for the psychographics of people who are explorers, I think. And that's the attitude I'm approaching it with. And I think we're going to learn a lot individually and as a community in the coming month or so.
Yeah, I think that's right. I mean, I think we are doing some stuff here, that's in a really great spot we're individually and collectively, we're exploring something pretty different, pretty out there. And I mean, one of the things I'm most excited about here is we've really got a good balance of, this is kind of a radical thing we're doing. The build your own pack mechanism. And we're doing it in I think we put it in a really good spot in terms of it's easy to understand. I mean, like, the fine details may be a bit challenging, but just looking at, okay, what do I have to do? I just pick one of these 5 things. Here's what it's going to do. Yeah. Should be pretty graspable. And, your pack builds up and changes in these ways that you can really labor those decisions. Or you can just make the picks. And, for me, that is like where I want designs to land all the time. Payoff, to being strategic, to thinking it through. But you shouldn't be totally paralyzed by that or feeling like everything turns on that decision. And I think like it's just understand. I hope we hit a design that's really understandable for something that is pretty radical and different, and potentially, something that we could use a lot going forward. This idea of this level of customization and things. I think I'm excited by it. I do think it's an exploration, and maybe it'll fail, just like the splitting stuff. I mean, not that the splitting stuff has failed, but that it's a risky exploration into something, and we just don't know where it's gonna go. If it's gonna be great, if it's gonna be just sort of you don't even notice it. So,
and with
it could be a lot of things.
With that, Adam, I think we're running out of time, so I'm gonna have to thank you for both your effort in designing this interesting exploratory league, and also taking the time to speak with me today at length about it and about server culture more generally. Quick surprise question for you on the way out. The Floor Season 2 side quest when?
Oh, it's got to be soon. The problem is I have been absolutely killing it in leagues. I think I'm top 8ing again in this one. I won the pennant in the last one. I bombed out of the mega draft, as you so kindly pointed out. I designed this freaking league. I mean, I didn't. We did collectively, but I poured god awful amounts of time into getting this.
So what you're telling me, somebody knocked this guy out of Final Fantasy League so he can finally get Floor Season 2. Or is that what you're saying?
That's right. If you can knock me out in week 2, then yeah, we'll have time. But also, I should say we're getting great other cool side events right now. Like Bob just ran a really cool auction draft of different sets, which I wouldn't want to take away from that. We got the roto drafts going on right now for Final Fantasy.
Tons of stuff.
So there hasn't been a big need for it yet.
True.
But it was super fun, the Floor. So I would like to bring it back. Also, it was the most time intense thing I've probably ever done on here. Because I was like role playing a character host, and it was a lot. It was a lot of stuff to do. So I might need to hire people. I might need an intern for my life on just my server work at this point.
Right. Well, we appreciate your efforts, Adam. Thanks for speaking with me again today. And I'm looking forward to accidentally bumping into you in the bot in Final Fantasy.
Absolutely.
Cheers, man.
Let's do it.
Bye for now.
All right. Later.